Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Charitable and Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very much. And you know, at this early beginning of May, it's time to start talking about and thinking about, again, our preparations for what's coming up for hurricane season. Best people to do that with are with those who are the directors of emergency preparedness and homeland security. Of course, David Naquin with St. Mary Parish. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, we appreciate it. And so it's really interesting that, coming off of the year of Ida that has caused so many issues with us, tell us a little bit about the thought process that you had last year. I got to tell you, I love some of these promises or some of these predictions that come to fruition. Let's just talk a little bit about that, David, from last year.
You know, over the years, I guess I try to go back on the history side and see what's happened in the past because, as you know, history can tell us maybe a little bit about something in the future. Last year, I felt very confident that we had a good shot at not getting anything in this section of the Gulf. And of course, it came out to be true. I was just luck, I guess, more than anything, but I based it on what I saw in history from past years. And just happened to this, that it worked out that way. Of course, as we talked about before, it only takes one a year to be bad, and it's going to be a bad year. This year last year was La Nina. This year will be El Nino. Now, in El Nino years, for the last 50 years, Louisiana hadn't seen a lot of activity. The problem with saying that is the activity we had was bad. Andrew, Katrina, Rita, Laura, Delta. I can go back as far as Hurricane Betsy. Hilda.
Also El Nino.
Hilda was a La Nina, and Betsy was El Nino. Yeah. So, and then you had Hurricane Harvey during an El Nino year, which dumped all that rain in Houston. So it's really confusing this year for me. But I think it's either going to be an all or nothing thing. We're either going to get crammed or we're going to not get anything. And that's hard to predict. And at least at this point, and it's still early in the prediction years. All the major predictors have been down just a little bit on the numbers.
On the total number of storms predicted.
Numbers, yeah. But that doesn't mean anything because if you get the one, then you've had a bad year.
And so El Nino versus La Nina, those are just simply weather patterns and wind patterns, right?
That's correct.
In the jet stream?
That's correct.
For that particular
El
year.
Nino actually forms in the Eastern Pacific. But it affects globally the way the jet stream runs and different things. What El Nino should mean for Louisiana is a wetter year, a little bit wetter year. It's going to be very active tropical season on the Pacific side. Now, they can cross over.
Sure,
We've had that happen before.
Yes, we have.
And I get a little confused on this, so don't hold me to it.
That's okay. Well, we're not expecting you to be a weather person. We know with your Homeland Security.
The weather patterns are generally easterlies, and in El Nino it goes the other way, or it's westerlies and goes easterly.
I think El Nino is more westerlies.
And it pushes
Me correct.
And of course, La Nina is one of those years where it forms and starts moving north, and moves the jet stream to the north, which allows stuff to come up,
from underneath.
So it'll be very interesting, but I think that most of the major predictors say that at the end of this month through July, an El Nino pattern will develop in the Eastern Pacific. And it's going to affect not just Louisiana, it affects globally the way things work.
Certainly all of the U.S., but certainly
everybody.
Everywhere.
So I looked at, so we know what's going to happen maybe in Louisiana. What's going to happen in Africa? Because that's where they come from, right?
They start as waves off of the coast of Africa.
Very dry year, which might be a pretty good indication. Last year, all that dryness, we kept all that Saharan dust in the mix. Maybe we're going to get something else out of that. I don't know. They haven't gone that far yet because they want to make sure the El Nino pattern actually develops like they predict.
And again, we've got to keep a watch on that.
Absolutely.
Predictions, like we say, we've got to see El Nino form like they think it's going to. But I love the fact that you spend a little time going back in history, some 50 years, and looking at what the potentiality is of that.
Well, we have to learn from it, and I was kind of new to this position. I was the sheriff for many years,
yes, sir.
And I thought that would be important for us to learn what's happened in the past and see if we can develop some kind of strategy. And of course, the strategy is you just never know what to expect, I guess. But certainly you can do a little planning. And right now, that's what we're doing. Our staff have Jimmy Broussard and Janet Marcotte. We're doing a lot of work right now. MREs, water, all of our major supplies that we know we're going to need if we have an event. We're in that process right now of beefing that up.
Developing that. Yeah. Speaking of history, and I've got in-laws that live over in St. Mary Parish, how dramatic would you say is the difference between 30 miles with regards to Ida?
I'll tell you what, I think it was amazing. And just in St. Mary Parish now, we're 46 miles across east and west, okay? Ida affected Gibson. Mm-hmm. Didn't affect Morgan City.
That is correct.
And then when you get to Franklin, we didn't even know anything was happening. I mean, it was really amazing, that fine line that develops.
Right.
And of course, that doesn't always happen that way, but certainly in a lot of cases we've seen at where a hurricane makes landfall, you may get 12 inches of rain, and 3 miles away you may get 2 inches of rain.
Right.
So I mean, that's how those things are,
and how different they are. We certainly appreciate the research and those things. I know you always want to kind of let people know how they need to be prepared. We're talking a little bit about some of those predictions. No matter what the predictions are, we always need to be prepared. And so you were talking a little bit about you and your team getting together, getting those MREs ready, and being better prepared.
Yeah, all the things we know we're going to use if we have an event. That's pretty much standard stuff in everybody's warehouse, and that's kind of what we've been doing for the last month.
Right.
Yeah, on the preparedness side, this year is really going to be a trick, I think, in the event we have to evacuate, because we have so much of the Louisiana Department of Transportation is doing a lot of Highway 90 work in New Iberia,
right?
Which, by the way, 1 lane of traffic.
Oh my goodness!
And when you start, and it's not the St. Mary group I worry about too much, but because we do evacuate to this
West,
end,
right?
Which is St. Bernard, Terrebonne, Lafourche, Assumption. For some reason, they don't want to go through New Orleans to get out of here. They're going to go
north. They want
to go west, and they're going to bring us right through St. Mary. So it's going to be quite a challenge if, in the event we have to do something on a major scale, which we're telling everybody, you better plan on leaving early. I mean, that's your only other shot.
Yeah.
We do have the Levee Road in St. Mary that can get you up to Butler Rose. The problem is 7 miles of that is gravel. And in that 7 miles, no cell service. So it's really, I would hesitate to say we can put people on that route.
Right.
But I'm telling you, local people are going to do it because they do it all the time anyway.
Okay.
But Highway 90, and we've had meetings with DOTD. We've had meetings with, Mr. Earl here, who I love, by the way, another St. Mary guy.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Grew up in Patterson.
Yeah. So, and all the people up above us, all the emergency directors, the sheriff's office, the state police, DOTD, and they got a plan.
Right.
I don't particularly care for it, but we really don't have any options.
Yeah, when you're doing construction, it's going to be an imposition, and just having to get those roads fixed are necessary. We've been knowing that for a long time.
No question.
I don't have a camper anymore because we couldn't ever go camping out west. Just the roads were that bad. Just the roads needed to be fixed that badly. I don't want to say that they were that bad, but
they needed maintenance, and they're doing some. I mean, there's not any question about that. It's just that the timing of it may be another year or two. We may have this for next hurricane season as well through some of those areas. But the one we have right now is basically from Jefferson Terrace, which is one of the first exits. You got Darnell Road, then you got Jefferson Terrace, and it goes all the way through to Center Street.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's several miles.
So it's a couple of miles, and it's 1 lane, and it's 1 lane in each direction. So it's not like you can contraflow anything right there.
Right.
And certainly DOTD has helped us they're going to allegedly help us with signage and police officers and all that stuff to help direct people. But I can remember for Andrew, we had people get stuck in traffic and turned around and came back to Franklin and just rode it out. And we've had several of those people tell us that. Hurricane Ivan, way back when,
right?
We had spoke with the New Orleans group, the mayor at that time, and basically was not going to make a call until the next day. He made the call a half a day earlier, put all that traffic through St. Mary, and we wasn't ready for it. So we're a lot better now at coordinating with everybody.
Right,
and
right.
Look,
and that's the important thing, the communication.
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. And I don't think there's a emergency director in Louisiana that can't pick up the phone and call his neighbor guy or call somebody across.
Right.
And it's like the sheriff's group. I was a sheriff for a long time, and what we found out real quick, the sheriff, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just call one of them. They've dealt with this before, and they know what to do, and they can help you. And we're in the same way with emergency preparedness. And I think we have a great relationship with all of them. I mean, I really do. And I have no problem picking up the phone and calling, and I don't have a problem if one of them calls us.
You. Right. Yeah. And so we appreciate you loaning us Earl from St. Mary, from where he was born
Earl's
and raised.
a good guy.
He really is. He's a friend and colleague of mine for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And so, again, I talk all the time as we talk about all of the work that's done to prepare our coast and to keep us from flooding and all the work that's done across the parishes. I will tell you, I like the fact that we have that same communication as it comes to emergency preparedness, as it comes to those directors, open lines of communication, talking about what to do and how to do it, not trying to reinvent the wheel.
So really this year is going to be, you got to do something early. You can't wait to the end. And the problem with that is, as you know, the last few years, that was Ida. It wasn't maybe a category 1, and all of a sudden, boom, it got up to a 3, and you don't have time to evacuate. So I think what's going to happen this year is the people that make the calls, which is parish president, a mayor, and in our case, we have a tribal chairman.
Right.
They're the ones that can declare an emergency and an evacuation.
Right.
So I think you're going to find a lot more coordination with them, and you're going to find that we're going to pull the trigger a little bit earlier than we have in the past. We're going to have to.
Excuse me. History has shown what we can kind of learn and expect from the past. History has also shown we kind of need to do that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to make the call, even on maybe a category 1 or so.
Right.
We may have to make the call because we may anticipate that it's going to build up like it does sometimes.
Right.
So.
And knowing where we are with DOTD and with construction is just an awareness that's very necessary. Oh, David, I appreciate you coming in and taking the time to come and share with us here in Terrebonne as we kind of make sure that we share all that information. And we got a lot of people that watch us here at HTV in St. Mary. We're very glad for you to come on and share that information. And so we look forward to that. We look forward to, I want to have the same prediction from last year. I don't want any named storms to come this way. That's my goal. But we appreciate you coming on and sharing that.
No
Thank
problem.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou Time when we continue.